Well, hey everyone, I'm Justin.
And I'm Courtney.
We want to welcome you to SavedAF.
This is SavedAF.
This is our podcast seeking to empower, to encourage, to push you in relationships.
SavedAF stands for Saved and Faithful.
Oh, Saved and Faithful. Yes. There was a joke I saw on Twitter. This dad put up, and he said, I told my child during the quarantine that I had black ass 1.
What?
Do you know
yeah,
those are?
black what?
Black AF 1.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what those are?
No.
Black Air Force Ones. Right. And so the daughter goes, what did she say? Oh my God, it was on Twitter. He said, yeah, my friends think we are too. Right? Like Black AF. And he said, I really can't believe that my child is that young. They don't know what black AFs are.
They need to listen to Nelly. Keep it stepping in my Air Force One.
And I think that's a great intro song right there. All right, welcome you guys to SavedAF. Once again, Justin, and this is Courtney. Today we're talking about this quarantine. We're in the midst of Corona time and Corona everything. And I've gotten, as a pastor, I've gotten so many questions about, is this the end time? Is Jesus coming back? All of that. The Bible says come back by fire. If he comes back like this, then he lied. And so I'm going to get him when I get to heaven. But I doubt that God did that. So I believe this is a terrible moment for those who are sick, and our prayers and our not just thoughts and prayers, but our actual prayers, and those who have been gifted with the gift of healing, really praying that God heals and eradicates from this world. On another level, those of us who are quarantined or intentionally socially distant, that's what we want to talk about, and kind of our own journey in the midst of this quarantine and Rona time 2019. Before we jump into that, here's a book I want to suggest you read. It's called All About Love by Bell Hooks. I've been kind of just trying to grab a hold of my library, the books I haven't finished. This particular book is a book our church read. I'm in the season of my life where I'm reading only Black women this year. And this particular book is a book I read in February to go along with Love Month. But in terms of a solid love ethic, what it means to be morally and spiritually and personally grounded in a love ethic, I believe this book, if you want to read something that'll hopefully ground you, this book will. And it's a simple read. Bell Hooks is amazing writer. I think this book will help you. So that's my 2 cents. Cor, what do you want to talk about?
So we're quarantine AF.
Quarantine and faithful.
And so there's so
Fill
much.
the womb 2020.
Oh my God. Yeah. So there's so much to talk about. How are you doing, Jess? Like, how are you honestly doing in the quarantine of being home? I know this. I'm gonna let you answer.
I'm a busy person by nature, right? So I not just on the move. I try to block my schedule out and organize my week, and so it's been an adjustment. I think that's been the main thing, and so I've adjusted, but it's not like I'm an introvert. I'm also an extrovert. I think I'm partially extroverted, so I'm like a whatever, I don't know, whatever language you can put there. So it's been an adjustment, just like calendars and schedules. And the one thing that happened, so because my background is in like tech, like when the quarantine happened and like orders to shut down happened, I got like all these phone calls from all these preachers and pastors. It's funny, I got phone calls from pastors who like literally thought I was an idiot for caring about like Facebook back in 2012, right? It was like, you'll get your head out of Facebook and get it in this book, right? Facebook and all that crap, right? And then all of a sudden they all had my phone number and they all had my email, and it was I got really overwhelmed the first week of this quarantine because it was like all I was doing was phone calls and emails and Zoom calls and Skype calls and I mean, folk are getting paid money to do the stuff I was doing for free. And that was a lot. There was a lot of like that, and then like my own church preparing, and then being present with my child, having to adjust completely from being in school to being home, and not being able to really go out unless you really have to go out, and all of that. And I have a really, really small staff at the church, and so there's a lot of things that go into Sunday morning with a few people, and now we're all distant and all of that. So it's been an adjustment, and I think I'm finally getting into a groove of reading and writing and being present with myself. But what about you?
Yeah, like I think introversion and extroversion is a spectrum, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think sometimes we are like wholly, absolutely one or the other, right? So I used to work from home for 5 years earlier in my career, which I absolutely loved, but it gets hard. So it gets lonely, it gets hard. You want to, after the day is over, get out, have fun, do things like that. And so I was craving an office job because I was always in home. Now that I'm out in the world and I go and I leave the house for a job now, every day, it's hard for me. I was like, ooh, yeah, quarantine time. Like, yeah, it's home time. I get to spend time at home. I get to clean my house. I get to do this. I get to do that. And then after a certain while, you kind of slide back to that spectrum and be like, I need to see people again. I need to go out. And so it's in this constant, like, teetering and tottering for me. Like, I don't have any kind of thoughts right now about, like, how I feel. Some days I'm just like, ooh, yes, I love this quarantine. I love, sometimes I'm a mother bird of such, like want everything in my nest and everybody's safe. Don't go out there. Let's just be in. And then other times I'm just like, forget the system. We're going out. We're going to try to find some stuff. Yeah. Let's go. God direct my path away from Corona. We're going out. So I think it's just like varying things of just different feelings about it. But I think that this is the best solution for us as a people to just kind of socially isolate or physically isolate. And that's one thing I do want to say and just plug. I've been saying this a lot of places that I go, is that there's a difference between physical distancing and social isolation. We are called to be physically distant, right? So not being close or within 6 feet of another person to stop the spread of the germ, which is very important. And I completely believe in that. But we are not called to be socially isolated, right? So if you are quarantining by yourself, if you are even with your own spouse or your own family, I really urge you to find some type of community outside your home through virtual means, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, community, social media, engaging in things like that. Zoom has upticked a lot because people are using those means, finding great things, finding a dance class that people are doing live, doing something with other people. Because God said at the end, it still holds true. It is not good for man to be alone. And it still holds true. But we can safely find community by not being isolated.
That's true. You know, what's hurt me in this, and I think I was saying with you last week, what hurt me in this is, so, as I said earlier, one of the things that we're in Rhode Island. We moved here by way of Tennessee, from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was in Brookfield, but
we know. In the suburbs. I was in the hood, y'all.
Yeah, whatever. And so moving to Providence, I don't have a lot of colleague friends, right? Especially people my age. I'm on a board, and I'm the youngest by like 25 years, and it's fun to be on the board at 31. It's not so fun when the next person is a boomer, and the language you're talking is not the same. And so there's nothing wrong against that. It's just been really difficult to have colleagues. And so when the quarantine happened, and for me as our congregation, we had to switch from being in person to online. I mean, we do this every week, right? So it's not a big deal to us. And we have a very active Facebook presence. We have a full-time hire that does social media and technology for us. But for me, what was so exciting is that all my colleagues that like from college and like reached out, and I was like so happy because I was like, you guys do have my number, right? You guys do have my email, and it was so great. And I was like taking all these calls. I was like, yes, like I was getting in my car and people calling, like, how are you handling it? It just felt so great to have friends again. And then like they just disappeared, right? Like they took all the information. I don't care if you're all listening either, because you did. They took all the information. Like I saw, and what hurt the most was I saw one person literally do a Zoom call that monetized the information I gave him for free.
Wow.
And that hurt. Like that really, really hurt. And so I hear what you're saying in terms of creating community. I think it's important to name friendships and name colleagues and name purpose, right? And I think it's also interesting in these moments of forced boundaries. I think we're revealing who really desires to be intimate with you and who you desire to be intimate with. right? Like I haven't talked to my mom this much in ages, right? And not just concerned about her health, but just, hey, how are you? Like, do you have food? Like, whatever. Like, the best man at my wedding, we hardly talk, but we've been talking more in this quarantine than we talked before this, right? And it's amazing that we're talking more, we're engaging more, and then like and it's amazing to reveal to people who literally, not necessarily who want to, who you can't be used, like you said all the time, but the individuals who were trying to use you, right? And that was my prayer: God, don't let me become used. But that stung, and it made me think about in this quarantine, like I want to create community, but at this point, I mean, I'm tired of looking at calls. I'm tired of looking at screens. I'm tired of Zoom. I'm tired of Facebook, and I know like my job calls for a lot more video time. Like I have to be working on a screen, not just meandering through it. So I'm personally getting tired of it, and if I'm there, then others are probably going to get there soon. But that's one thing in terms of like creating community. I believe it's so important to cultivate community, in these moments. But I tell you, man, I got to a point where I saw that fool put that thing up on Facebook, and I was like, are you really charging for the information I gave you?
Right.
That stung, and I think it's a revelation of community and all of that.
Yeah, I think that's a good time too. It's like what we talk about all the time is balancing that act between being helpful to those in need versus being used. And I think there's a fine line in that, right?
Yep.
Like, I said this to you like all the time. You were ahead of your time. Like you've been doing this. You've been doing this since you've started in ministry, like using a technology component to everything that you've been doing since the beginning of time, and people will always think that you were crazy, you're just trying to be this crazy millennial that just always wants to use technology. And now when literally the only crutch that we have to lean on for a lot of things is technology, now everybody has been like knocking down your door and saying like, wow, you know, after they are like, oh, you're just extra, oh, I can't believe you did that, oh, I can't believe. The good thing is that they're looking at you and they're looking at this. I do believe that now is the time though to start those business ideas. And that's for everybody. Like, start those business ideas, start them. There's still money to be made because takeout is going up more than ever before.
So did you see the stocks so the CEO of Slack put this up on Twitter? He said, as much as a lot of people are dying, our stock in our business is growing exponentially to a point where he gave it away for free because he felt bad. Which the Zoom is free now. Like, it's just free. Like, outside of like the super premium enterprise versions, it's free because their stocks went up. Netflix, it was great to invest in Netflix like 3 weeks ago, and like Hulu like 3 weeks ago, and like no one cared about half these things, but it was great to invest in these things like 3 weeks ago, and Disney Plus like 3 weeks ago, because it's now at a place that's a premium, right, to buy these stocks, whereas you have the local shops going. So it's gonna, I think one of the challenges, I know you put invest, I think the other part would be read. I think readers are leaders. If you're going to be a leader, you have to read. If you're not soaking up knowledge, then you're not. And then the second part of that reading is also podcasting. While we're giving podcasts away, I want you guys to be considered at least listen to 4 different podcasts a week. People who are not of your gender, people who are not of your socioeconomic status, and people who are not even of your race. Like I listened to one from this super staunch white Australian woman, right?
Wow.
And it is beautiful, the information she gives you from an Australian white woman. Then I listened to this multimillionaire black man, and it's amazing to hear his story as a like a millionaire who's a black man, on how he generated and cultivated wealth. And then I listened to a preacher who's just this old white guy who's just a very, very sound expositional preacher. But listen to different genders, listen to different races, and listen to different socioeconomic statuses. Courtney said investing your time. I think investing one's time is so important, right? Like, so I think it's like, not to bring another book in, but a book that I finished reading is this book called Future Proofed. What she talks about in the book is the importance of being ready for the future before the future gets here, because it's not your practices, it's your principles.
Yeah,
right.
And that's really important. It's not your, like you said, it's not what you're practicing, it's your principles. And so that started now, right? So if you have the idea, now is the time to launch it, right? To see where the market is for it. And exactly what you're saying, just because it was down in one part of the market, it's very good right now for another part.
Yeah.
And just because, and sooner or later, it's going to go back up for the other part of the
That's
market, and it's going to go back down because once we get through this virus, it's going to be summertime, and now everybody's going to be outside and doing those engagement, and all of those things that take community are going to go up, and it's going to level out for the other things.
That's it.
And so, like, you have to get out there and doing that. I know with us even just switching gears. So you're a pastor, if they didn't know that, and I go to church. I go to church all the time. So a lot of the questions that we get is, how do I balance my time? This was like even before the quarantine, right? Like, we really love to give, and you know, those that come in, they're like all on fire for Jesus, and they want to come in and be in the church, and so they like overexert themselves, I say. So like, they are at everything. They are the first to show up. They're here. They're providing the food. They're providing the this. They're coming here. All these different things, which are fantastic and which are good, and then it leads to burnout, and then we don't see these people like in a long time. We have to check on them and be like, hey, are you okay? What's going on? And it's that balancing act.
Yeah, you know, so
in our time and in our service.
Yeah, I feel what this is going to do for so I could talk for hours about this. I feel like what this is changing. This quarantine is changing everything for work, for churches, for nonprofits, for government, for childcare. I mean, it's changing everything, right? Your children are going to go back to daycares where they spend 2 hours a week or 2 hours a day learning on screens because their parents. I mean, they probably would have memorized the same way like a lot of my friends memorized Die Hard. Like, you're gonna have memorized Frozen.
You know Die Hard?
I don't. My friends do. I don't watch.
Like,
It's still a Christmas movie. But anyway, so I think what this is going to do, I think it's going to reveal, if we're going to talk about church and even jobs, I think it's going to reveal the things we really care about, right? Like, so it's going to reveal my real gifting, right? So when you think about, so there's my buddy has a church. And he said that he has a young lady who's a praise and worship leader over his kids ministry, opens church up and does all the tech in his church. Right, exactly, right. And so he said, but now all she has to do is technology, and she's been thriving, and she's been amazing, and it's been like great to see her do that. And it's because now she's able to run in one place. I think what's happened in churches in terms of like even burnout and all of that, and I'm even learning as a leader now, which is why like I don't overload with unnecessary prayer calls and stuff, is I think we're realizing the places we really care about working, right? I think we're realizing the places we really care about engaging, and then we also I think are realizing the places we don't really care, right? Like I don't want to give my Saturday up. I don't.
Or that aren't necessary.
Yeah,
this is really putting it to the top and separating the oil from the water.
That's it.
Like, what is really necessary and what was the fat that we could shave?
And also, what are the times, this is just church, but I'm prior to the world, what are the times that really matter? Like, our Saturday afternoon service is better. Our Saturday morning service is better. Or do we really need Sunday morning? Because Sunday morning, like we talk about all the time, is an own farming practice.
Yeah.
11 o'clock on Sunday morning was a farming thing.
It was the only time, yeah.
It was a time where, like, you can milk the cows at 6 o'clock, you can get your stuff together, the slaves have been gone, you go to church at 11, you come back, slaves go to church at 1, and then y'all are resting. Like, that's what it was. And they were taking care of stuff. And so it's like, it's church at 11, or even, like, work 8 to 5. Do we really need that?
Factory practice, so that the factory could keep going each shift, so they would have 8-hour shifts where different shifts will come. But now,
and you were talking even about how it was set up for. I mean, I know we're gonna have people that are not black listening to this, but watching this. But you were talking about how even childcare was set up for the benefit of the white man and white woman.
Yeah, after school education was set up for the benefit of the white woman, and after school care was set up for the benefit of black people. So when you think about it, a lot of times when you look at education from 8 to 3, there's no job that is from 8 to 3. There's no job that is set up. Your job is set up probably from 9 to 5. And so for 8 to 3 was for those privileged stay-at-home mothers, which were predominantly white women, that they can watch soap operas, they can watch things like that. And then after 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, I'm able to pick up my child in time enough so I can come home, finish dinner, clean up my child, and dinner be ready and my family is clean at the table. So when the man of the household came home, we all are eating dinner and we're serving him. So things have drastically
Oh my God.
changed, of course, in America and how we see and do things. And I really think that this quarantine has been a shakeup in
my God.
how we're seeing things, doing things in church, out of church, at work, and that saying that I read something too in that same book about like the factory shifts where they say that an average worker, and like holla if you hear me, an average worker works a maximum on a good day 4 hours
That's it.
of a maximum.
That's why Sweden, and that's why I even changed office hours in my own context, where we only go 6 hours max a day. Sweden only has 4 day 6 hour work weeks.
Yeah.
Right? So speaking to one other thing, so you say all of, and so that's I think the challenges you have are to invest. Challenges we have are to read. Challenges I have to really learn what our real giftings are, what we really care about. But then lastly, what about coordination? It's like coordinating with yourself, coordinating with others. What not just looking towards the future, but pulling things together in terms of working with the people around you. What does this speak to for the future? If we're going to be people in this quarantine, we're going to invest in ourselves, we're going to read and listen to stuff, we're going to listen to our hearts, our real gifts. What does this speak to about like coordination? Because I know you mentioned something earlier about how divorce rates are starting to go up.
Yeah, I saw this article where it says in the 2 weeks of us being quarantined that couples are separating and divorcing because of the time spent together. And I don't know if that was like a funny article.
Well, no, I'm not surprised.
But yeah, that couples are separating and divorcing within these 2 weeks of being around each other and kind of seeing that whole person. And that's where I'm a well-being coach in my day job. And so really it's this notion, I say it all the time at work, I say it all the time to my clients and to the people that I work with, that everywhere you go, you should be bringing your whole self. Long gone are the days where you're like, you need to check it at the door. Don't check anything at the door. When you're coming into any space, you're coming in. For me, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a worker. This is what I do. This is how I do it. I'm a part of this church, and I'm bringing it all with me. I'm not silencing that I'm a Christian. I'm not silencing that I'm a mama. I'm a wife. I'm not silencing that I'm black. I'm not silencing anything. I'm coming my whole self. And long gone are the days where you're going to be expected to check that at the door. I think we're coming into our households now where we have no choice but to bring our whole selves here. So we're bringing work here. Like, remember that funny, like, little article where it's like, my husband's a circle back around guy. Like, you're making the meetings longer. Like, you the one that is, like, doing this.
Seriously.
You're the one that's, like, just to recap what we said, you're the one that's saying that stuff. Like, they're like really astounded as if their partner is talking in tongues because they don't know this side of a person, right? Because they come home and are a certain way.
Right, I think that's where adultery comes in.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're showing a piece of yourself to other people that your home has never seen before. And I think coordination in terms of time blocks, reading together, studying together, worshiping together. I mean, if you have no excuse now not to go to church together, and you literally can pick any church across the country. Well, not every church, because some churches still, they refuse to use anything, but they still got the iPhone videos on the TV.
But that's them, and that's their standard you gotta meet. Yeah.
That's the standard. It's unfortunate there. I was joking with my professor, my advisor, and she said, some churches don't need the live stream. They don't. The last thing I would say, going back to investment as well, the last thing for me is, so the stimulus check and all the things that go with the stimulus check. Here's what I want to challenge you to do. So I understand money might be strange and funny right now. I get it. Home ownership and buying a home, buying cars, generating wealth, I think is the opportunity for the future.
Yeah.
Right? 1912, 1910, 1915, when this happened at the end of just like Renaissance of black art, and when the influenza virus came through and thousands of people died, when that happened, it changed the world, changed the way that things were done. FDR became this monumental moving president, and there's so many things that happen because of a movement. Crisis reveals our real needs.
Yeah.
Right? So think about if your body fails you, it reveals that you need to stop eating certain things. You need to work out more. Crisis reveals real needs. I believe in the world right now, crisis is revealing, man, we really need to invest in technology. It's revealing intergenerational conversation. it's revealing things like that. It's also revealing the need to generate wealth because too many of us we live in the state for the highest rate of filing for unemployment.
Wow.
In 3 weeks.
Yeah, 1 in 15 people in Rhode
Yeah.
Island are unemployed.
Yeah, right now,
Yeah.
and it's sad, and we can talk about business loans, we can talk about all of that, but there's no reason, but we've talked about before, and you've read it, and we've seen it, and all of this about what it means to save 3 months of your salary. What it means, I get the world is crazy. That's why I want to challenge you to generate wealth. Use this stimulus check. I get if you have necessary things you have to pay them, but do not go out and buy like a purse or pair of shoes or a new computer. Save it. You still use the checks you'll get to pay off debt, but I want to challenge you because we're in the process right now of closing on a home, and man, the money from a stimulus check literally is like most of our closing costs, right? And you're gonna need.
Well, not really. We have the money for
I'm
the
saying,
closing
not that we
costs.
need it, but
it helps. It
if we got that
and we can put
yesterday,
that back in our investments.
That's it. And
Yeah.
so invest financially in yourself. And so use the resources you get. If you have necessary emergency things you have to take care of, great. But start nest eggs. Start saving. Like, umbrellas look stupid until it rains. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, umbrellas are stupid.
Yeah.
And then it rains. And now you're getting wet, you're getting soaked. And we talk about rainy days. It's literally having an umbrella. So when it hits, you're not the one who feels lost or feels wet because you have invested in yourself. You've invested in your future and you invested financially, and home ownership is going to go up like crazy.
It is.
Because even as we're saying in an apartment, I can't wait to have more than 3 rooms.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And
And exactly like just saying what you were saying. Like, this is a massive reset button that we can look at the quarantine as very negative, right? And my heart goes out to all the people that have been laid off from their jobs. And hopefully this is just a temporary pause in your job and that you can pick them back up once this silly virus, this virus just goes away. This serious virus just goes away. And I hope everybody can pick up their employment right where they left off when this is over. And I hope that it's over very soon for you. But if you were blessed to continue in your work and working from home and having that security, that this quarantine, like, see the good things of it. God just gave us a big reset button, right? Now, just like we said, like, the things that were essential and not essential in life, now we realize that you don't necessarily have to eat out all the time, right? Like, eating out has significantly gone down. Like, yes, there's takeout, there's different things like that, but people aren't doing that. People are going to the grocery store, stocking up, and
because people
eating.
are creative.
Yeah, and cooking together and eating food. There's so many times that Cam brings his little stool in there and we've cooked so many meals together, doing something that's so new and so fresh. But now you can do it. You can cook.
That's it.
And you can sustain off of cooking. And yeah, it might take a little bit more of work, but God is getting us into this preparation mode of doing that, of saying, let me make sure I have my staples in my house all the time. And like, I really feel like this is one big factory reset button for us.
I want you to consider too, and even think about for you, like, what are the things you haven't, I said this to my church today, what are the things you haven't done?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I miss basketball, but I didn't realize basketball wasn't here until I saw that the ESPN app on my phone had to be re-downloaded because I hadn't clicked on it. And I miss NCAA tournament. I miss all that, but I don't miss it in such a way that my life is going to be completely changed and altered. But the influenza virus is what brought this stuff to light. Right? So now all of a sudden the NFL is created and the AFL is created and there's mergers and there's money in it because at the time there was no social media, so there wasn't a escape to do XYZ or do funny stupid games on your phone. There was no escape, and so you had to go play football, you had to go play basketball. But now you have television, you have social media, you have all these different games in your house. You can make it up yourself. You can do all this. You can make up your own games. I wonder the things for all of you listening that you just stopped doing that you didn't realize. Like, what are the things you stopped doing? Like you mentioned, not going to takeout, not going to basketball games, do you really need to invest in season tickets next year?
Wow.
Right? Do you really need?
That's powerful.
Yeah. Do you really need multiple cars?
Yeah.
Right. As you guys look at your homes, like, do you really need multiple cars? Do you need more televisions? Do you need to learn about coding so you can do things like that at home? What are the things you haven't done that don't matter? So when you go back into the world, you're not doing them,
bringing
right?
up those old practices and downloading those old things. I think that's really powerful, that this is a powerful reset button, and things that you have deleted and erased, some of them should be permanently deleted, and some of them should stay, and the practices that we're learning right now should stay. Family time, at least having that. Like, we have a 2-year-old son, and the other day we're having like a full-blown conversation. Now his vocabulary and his language has grown over the past couple of weeks, because I'm like, I couldn't have been this busy at work where I done missed all of this. I mean, we having a conversation. He talking about this, he working. He told my mom, she's like, "Oh, Kim, what letter are you working on today?" And he was like, "Letters, okay? I'm working on letters." So he's so funny. And I'm like, where do you get this personality from? But it's just that when I've only had a couple of hours with him throughout the week here and there and on the weekends, I was missing all these great things. And so I'm like, nope. As soon as this quarantine is over, I'm still having like my full days with Cam. Like, I want to like hear and know and have these 2-year-old old man conversations.
Well, even for me, I've already shifted our work hours when we get back together, and I've already shifted the timing at which we work, because I notice when my team is the most present and creative, juxtaposed to when they aren't. Right? I think we're going to have to be intentional as leaders about when we're working from home. I think it's also a challenge to all of us too to think about extra streams of income, right? Yes. I wonder what childcare is really going to look like. I wonder how the individuals who are home are going to adjust, because what we're going to see, and to all of you who are listening, the places we go for money and the places we go for our minds and our bodies and ourselves. Are you really working on a job for dollars? Or are you really working on a job that fills some deep well of yours? And what's going to happen after 4 to 5 weeks of deep well filling, and I go to a place where I can't empty it out, I'm going to find the place I can empty it. And that might be, I don't know if it'll be entrepreneurship, because I don't think people want the fear that goes into this, but it's going to have to be us as leaders reevaluating how we structure and what we hire. Right. Because I think even for me as a pastor, most churches are built around pastor, associate pastors, executive pastors, ministry pastors, outreach pastors, all of that. I'm in the process of thinking through 3 new positions that are completely out of the box of outreach and executive and stuff like that, right? Like, you need some necessary stuff, like you need a finance person, but you really have to begin to think about, man, what are the places that people are going to unearth, right? That people are going to come out and want to do. So, for example, we talked about home ownership at our church recently, and when we talked about home ownership, I now need to make sure that on my team is somebody who's going to help people walk through that financially, physically, like connected to people. That's New Age outreach. New Age outreach is not, there's nothing wrong with blessing bags, but New Age outreach is the people inside of our church want to buy homes. Who are the realtors inside of our church or just in the community? Yeah, where are the places to go shopping?
These new age millennial needs of like buying a home, buying a car, where people don't know who to talk to. Like, I've had so many conversations with people that I've managed on a personal level where they say, "Courtney, can I personally talk to you? There's this car that I like and it costs this much. Do you think that this is a good idea?" And it's just like, you have nowhere to process that. That's it. You have nowhere where somebody is like not listening. You have to pay them, or you have to be like, oh, they're trying to sell you something themselves. And so it's like, that's a dream manager is what you're saying. So like a house, how to buy a car, where to go to for taxes, that you're not going to be like, duped. Different things like this.
And having an available list of that in every work sphere. So not just church spheres, but every work sphere. Anybody who's listening, you feel free to take it. And I'm still working it out. So if you figure it out first, we'll hire you to come in and look at it. But I think we have to be, even your own job, right? Yeah. So what are the things you really need right now, right? And then how is the effect of Zoom going to change families, right? Going to change homes, going to change jobs. Our Fridays, are Wednesdays the new Friday? Like, we're just going to be off in the middle of the week and we have 2-day work weeks? Like Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, off Saturday, rest and relax or whatever on Sunday, because church is going to have to change from Sunday, right? So I think this quarantine, as you guys are listening, where you guys are hearing us think, I think that's the last piece of it. We said invest, read, reveal your real gifts, coordinate. And I think the other thing is, I think quarantines, and you guys heard us for a second, just you have to give your chance of self to think, right? Your space, yourself, a chance to think. Crisis reveal real needs. I remember when I had to go to the doctor last year and all these issues, and the main thing they kept saying is, you need a nutritionist, and you start drinking less coffee. Because the crisis in my body revealed what my body needed.
Wow.
As you are in this moment of the world is in crisis, what does your organization need? What does your family need? What do your resources need? What does your mind need? Crisis reveal needs. What do you really need? Right? Like, and vocalize those things. And Courtney talks about this all the time, what it means to be selfish.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And what it means to be selfish to ensure that your needs are fully met. Because if not, that leads to resentment, that'll lead to hatred, that leads to depression, anxiety, suicide, frustration, hatred. Even for all of you college students who are listening, what do you need right now?
And in this whole like balancing act of life, you are the one in control that has the power to balance it all, right?
Yeah.
You determine what to give to a need versus looking at it saying that I've been used. You determine. So if you are out of balance, you've been giving out, you've been giving out, but you don't have anything for yourself, meaning that you're very unbalanced, push it back.
That's it.
Pull it back.
That's
You have so much more to offer. You are the wealth. You are the spring. You are what it's coming from. You are the one that God is blessing and God is gifting to generate this into the world. And so you are the one that has the option to pull it back and to balance yourself saying that. Or if you're saying, you know what, I'm very heavy on this side. I have a lot to give. I have so much. And I'm just like hoarding all my knowledge. I'm hoarding all the toilet tissue. I'm hoarding all the everything. I can afford to kind of balance myself out and give.
Yeah.
And that's what we're called to give. We're called to give from our deep wells. And that's what well-being is, and that's what coming from our whole self is, and that's all it is this balancing act. And I hope that after this quarantine that you guys, we can make it. This is a beautiful time. This is a serious time. And this is a time for us to really, really have that balancing act.
You know, I say this all the time, prophets are able to look at deserts and know they can bring water to it. That there's, not bring water to it, sorry, that there's water in it.
Yeah.
And I feel like what we're able to do in this moment is it doesn't mean there isn't death. Doesn't mean it isn't desolate. Doesn't mean that it's very ugly. But I see water.
Yeah.
And I think the water that is able to come out, the water that's able there is in your investments, in your reading and listening, in your revelation of gifts, coordination, and in your willingness to think and be comfortable with raw thoughts. Because it's amazing, y'all. It's amazing what happens when raw thoughts become fruit. Beautiful. So thank you guys for joining us during SavedAF. We play this is a blessing to you, and we'll be back here soon. Please be sure to like this page and to follow our podcast so that you're able to get notifications when we come up as well. So any last thoughts from you?
No, we have a thing called just the effing truth,
which
means the faithful truth.
Yes.
We like to play on words to make you turn your head, and I think just do you want to leave them with just like one statement of just like the effing truth of the time?
Yeah, crisis reveals needs.
Crisis
what do you
reveals
need?
needs.
I think if you leave out of here vocalizing to yourself 3 things you really need. I need time, I need energy, I need patience, I need love, I need people to listen, I need to write, I need to read more, I need to read, period, right? I need to worship, I need to go to church, I need to quit. I need to quit my job. Things I need to stay on my job. I need to search for another one. Crisis reveals what does your body need, what does your mind need, what does your soul need, and walk to that rhythm. And do not apologize for it. And I guarantee you, God will always meet you in terms of being faithful, having that truth. God will meet you on the other side of that need, because He is faithful to supply.
Hey,
every one of our needs.
well, thank you guys so much. You can find us on.
We'll be on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Music, as well as iHeartRadio and Anchor FM. So you can find us anywhere and everywhere. You can call us, beep us if you want to reach us.
Call us, beep us.
Call me, beep me if you want to reach us.
Or at SavedAF.com.
Yes, SavedAF.com.
We're in there.
Have a good one. See you guys.